Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, Inspire Tribe. It's John Nolan here. Thank you for joining us for a little bit of an impromptu live stream. We just wanted to come on and discuss that, the question that so many of you had over the past 24 hours or so. But I want to catch everyone up here on YouTube and Rumble. By the way, we're simultaneously streaming. This live stream is going to be available in full on both platforms. However, as you know, we're moving our live streams over to Rumble, so I would encourage you to use the link in the description here in the live chat. If you're on YouTube, that's pinned to the comment section, to the live chat section, and hop over to Rumble so you'll always be on the up and up when it comes to live streams. But we came on here specifically this morning to discuss the Guardians of the Looking Glass, who they are and what they came out with, and what it means that yesterday, apparently nothing happened in New York City. So first of all, let me catch everyone up who wasn't or isn't aware of what's been going on. So a little over a month ago, a mysterious group appeared on YouTube and Rumble, a few platforms, and they call themselves the Guardians of the Looking Glass, and they claim that they are former military and intelligence officials, and they put out videos, just a black screen, text scrolling, and voiceover. And basically, they were talking about that they had access to this top secret technology called Project Looking Glass, which has been discussed on many forums by many speakers, as far as I know, by pretty much everyone already plenty of times, which is a kind of technology that shows future timelines. There's been so much said about it. I don't want to go into that, but they came out with specific predictions or projections into two future timelines. They said a negative and a positive timeline. And the negative timeline would include 70 events up until 2030 that, according to them, needed to be stopped for the positive timeline to occur for humanity. Now, the thing with this is, and we want to say something very clearly, we're not associated with the Guardians of the Looking Glass. We don't know if they're legit or if they're a hoax. What we did feel upon coming across this information was a nudge and a hunch to discuss it and to bring it out in the open. And this is, I think, for a specific reason. When something like this happens and a new group comes out and they put out these videos, there's always people jumping on it and basically just amplifying what's there without really discussing it. So what happened is I came across this article by a filmmaker called Frank Jacob. He really blew the lid open on the whole Guardians of the Looking Glass thing. And he was discussing what they were talking about in the videos. Now, he has a lot of background knowledge, decades of deep research and filmmaking on these subjects. So he was a wealth of information. So we had him on for 2 interviews. And in the video description, you can see the links for the interviews. You can watch them free of charge on our Locals platform. And 2 very in-depth interviews about the technology, about the history of the technology, about everything that's been said about it, and about the possibility that what the Guardians of the Looking Glass are saying might or might not be true. Now, their first prediction, and that's a wrong word, I think, the first projection into the future was looking at the perspective from March 10th when the video dropped, was April 18th, a false flag bombing in New York City that was going to be blamed on Russia in order to produce an all-out war and potentially nuclear war. So putting this out is, it's a big statement. And in combination with the other 2 videos that the Guardians of the Looking Glass put out, we just felt it was necessary to discuss it. And that's what we did in 2 interviews. Now, April 18th came around. Nothing of the kind happened in New York City, which is, of course, great news. It's wonderful news. But at the same time, people are saying, oh, was this all just a hoax? Were you falling for it? And this is not how we operate or how we feel or how we think. The truth is that we operate in full personal responsibility, and we have always. I mean, I think if you look at our YouTube channel and the other channels, I think there's now over 800 videos out there, and I think about 300 of them are live streams. our message has been over and over and over again to get in touch with intuition, get in touch with higher spirit, and trust that true inner guidance, not be guided by fear, not be guided by this false hope, if you will, which is the ego thing. And so what we feel, when we feel something is important, we discuss it. I can't make a judgment on the Guardians of the Looking Glass. We reached out to them. They haven't responded. Also, a doctor that is mentioned in the second video of the Guardians, which is an assassination of Dr. Wu, which is about to happen, or supposedly about to happen in May. We reached out to him and his team. They haven't gotten back to us either. So far, if this is all an elaborate hoax, we can't see the end game here, which is if people come out with a hoax, it's usually for two reasons. It's either to make money, or the second reason is to bring misinformation and guide people away from something. And what they have done so far doesn't really qualify as either so far. Now, we're going to continue to monitor this, maybe talk about it if updates come, but we just wanted to let you know that we're not some cult proponents here. We don't just jump on a train and say, hey, this is what's going to happen. At the same time, we felt that discussing these things has created a lot of positive energy for shifts. And here's the positive, the most positive side about this whole discussion. People have actually started looking into the future. And this is something that if this was all that was accomplished here, then I think a lot was accomplished. People are so caught up with looking in the past, looking into what their past hurt was and how they're disadvantaged by life. And they're so stuck in that rut that a lot of times they don't even create a vision for the future. But this was all about looking into the future, right? And the real beautiful thing about it is that we can choose how we look into the future and what we project into the future, what we co-create, what visions we have. So in that regard, that was very, very positive and powerful. Now I understand if people come to this subject unprepared, no background knowledge, this might sound fearful because it's someone's predicting a lot of death and horror as a possibility. We understand that, but we live in these times and we have to grow up enough and mature enough that we can deal with these things in the right way. Now, if you are in a very fearful, worrisome situation, I would really encourage you to not even go on video platforms or even consume any kind of news right now, because then healing must be the main thing. But back to the Guardians of the Looking Glass. One more time, we're not affiliated with them. We don't know who they are. They have not responded to our communication. They have had limited correspondence with Frank Jacob, whom we interviewed. That has completely ceased too. So we'll monitor and see what happens. We're definitely observing it, but we're not making any definitive calls. And we're certainly not saying that's legitimate or it's illegitimate. It's out there. It's unfolding, and we'll see what happens. However, we are very thankful and grateful that yesterday went by uneventful in New York City. There was a interesting event a few days prior to that. If you go back, I think it was on April 12th, something happened in New York City. And there's one more thing that caught our attention yesterday because it was so timely with the April 18th event, is that the former president, President Trump, put out a statement specifically talking about New York City and mentioning the recent violence that happened in the subway system, which we don't know exactly what that was about. There's a lot of talk about it, but it was definitely very interesting. It was definitely very interesting to see that time connection. It came out yesterday. So these are things that we notice, and they're interesting. They're synchronistic. What they mean, I can't tell you. You will have to figure that one out for yourself. We can just say there's some significance to timing, communication. Everything is really connected. And this is perhaps also a message that we need to understand more and more in these times is there is no randomness in the events around us. Even if we can't see the hand that creates them, well, part of it is us, of course, as co-creators, but there is no randomness. Nothing is random. And so if we begin stepping into the picture as conscious co-creators on this planet, then we also step out of the victim and observer role, because everything that we ever wanted to do is encourage people to become the livers of their own lives, to become the creators in their own lives, and not be passive observers waiting for an outside source, waiting for an outside savior, waiting for something outside of you. Now, is this disregard for God, the creator? Is this disregard for Christ or Christ consciousness? To the contrary, this is what we have been given by our creator, this ability. We've been given amazing abilities by our creator, and it's time for us to use them in a constructive, positive, beautiful way. This is what we do in our way. Now, does it always sit well with everyone? Probably not, but that's not our intention. We're not here to please everyone. We're not here to make everyone happy or fulfill anyone's expectations. What we do here is follow our intuitive guidance, our highest spirit, and do what we feel is right. That being said, we're happy nothing bad happened yesterday in New York City. I'm sure a lot of bad things happened in New York City, but nothing of this scale. And one thing also, last but not least, with the global situation being what it is currently, with the conflicts expanding as they are, we also have to keep in mind that the information that we're getting around these conflicts is heavily manipulated or, just flat out false. And that leads to another topic that is false flag events. And if you're not familiar with the term false flag, please go look it up and what it means. It's very important to understand that oftentimes when something explosive bad happens in the world and immediately there's a boogeyman, immediately we know who it was and why they did it, and there's a story to that. Oftentimes this is on purpose to create a certain kind of energy in the people towards that country or towards that person, and to justify new actions. So the whole topic of false flag events is very important in strategic warfare, in politics. It's happening everywhere. So I encourage you to look into it. All right. Well, this is it for the update here on the Guardians. If something new happens, you'll hear from us. If we get new information, you'll hear from us. Please stay tuned for a very, very interesting, and it's a one-of-a-kind conversation that's coming up here on the Inspired channel. You don't want to miss this. This is going to be a little bit of a different conversation than we've had before, and in one way or another, it's going to tie to this whole thing that's coming up in the following days. A new guest on the Inspired channel, maybe not new to you, but a new guest to us. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. And please remember, join us on Rumble and the Locals. They are together. They belong together, the companies. And Rumble being the prime video platform, which you could compare to YouTube. It prides itself on being censor-free. It prides itself on being free speech. And Locals being the social media arm of it. And we are on both. And please join us on Rumble. You'll see the link here on the top of the live chat. Also, the link for Locals is in description. It's inspired.locals.com. And this is for uncensored, unfiltered, free content. All right, tribe. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be with you soon again. We love you and be abundantly blessed.